Hey, what's going on, everybody? You're tuning into another episode of 20 Minutes. Today, we have on a digital content creator, social media influencer, verified Reiki master teacher, jujitsu practitioner, podcast host, and the mental health advocate, Vicky, Slick Vick, Magyar. How are you?
I'm so good. I'm so good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for asking. I'm glad I pronounced your last name right. It's not a hard last name, but I always want to make sure I get it right.
Yeah, people just add their own letters, I think, at the end, which I don't know why people do that, but you got it. You got it. That was perfect.
Fantastic. Let's start off with this. What does mental health mean to you?
It means honestly, mental health is patience to me. Patience. And I say that because just being a mental health advocate myself, going through school and studying it, I think the biggest thing with mental health that people forget is to be patient with others and patient with themselves. Because I think we're constantly learning about our own mental health, and it's easy to get caught up in little things and then not have compassion. And I say that the same way, reflecting towards other people as well, because we're all going through crazy things that we don't know about.
Yeah.
Patience.
Patience is a virtue, right? That's what they say.
It is. I literally have a bracelet with one of my very good friends from back home in Ohio, because I live in Florida now, but back home in Ohio, she made me a bracelet that says patience on it, because I am one of the most impatient people out there, which is funny that I said that, but I'm very impatient, and it is a reminder all the time to breathe.
I'm so impatient that I have to buy the fast pass at theme parks because I'm not waiting in line. I'll spend the extra money, but I'm not waiting in line.
Yeah, I get it. I do.
What's your relationship with mental health?
So, kind of just spewed it out there a little bit right there, but so I went and got my master's degree in education, and I emphasized it on school counseling. So before I was really wanting to work with children and their mental health, obviously in a school setting. And so in the training process, the education process, it's funny, I was in the middle of my master's degree and I was like, do I really want to go through school counseling? Because I ended up wanting to, go towards more of adults. But I was like, I'm halfway through, I'm just going to finish it out. I'm glad I did. But then I went and became a school counselor, and automatically I was like, I love this, but I also feel like I don't belong in a school. I felt like I belonged outside of school, and nothing wrong with children, but I felt as though I would do better with adults. And so, fast forward, I started just doing my own kind of coaching. I'm still licensed as a school counselor, but with my education and everything like that, I decided just to make my own kind of coaching. I got an LLC, and then I was just like, I'm going to just help people in general. And it kind of just went into a lot of other spiritual things, which I'm sure we'll probably talk about a little bit too. But that's my relationship with it, is that I like to help people through what I've learned through my credentials, my degrees and experience, to work through their own stuff. Because at the end of the day, I try to tell people, if you're a counselor, if you're a coach, etc., you can hold their hand for a little bit, but then you got to teach them so that they can do it on their own. Because that's, I think, the biggest success for anyone, is to learn something and then to implement it and to get better at it. And it's never perfect. We're always going to have things that happen to us, because that's the nature of being human.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, we had a really good day, but something else is going to happen. So what do? You know what I mean? So that's why I try to tell people, be grateful, practice your affirmations, do things every day, so that when that stuff does happen, you can cut down the frequency, you can cut down the duration of those things, because it's going to happen regardless. Life is going to throw you crazy wrenches. It's just, what are you going to do when it happens? So it's kind of altogether my relationship with mental health.
So you said you like helping people. Was that the main motivation to keep on pursuing your career, or is there something else that was there that motivated you to not stop?
I think it's interesting. A lot of people go into careers, from my, understanding, from my own experience, because it's something in which they felt they were passionate about in their own life. Or maybe they had a situation where it was like, wow, sometimes doctors, right? I've heard this a lot from doctors. I always loved, taking the splinters out of my family's, fingers or something like that. Or I just liked helping people from a young age. Or I had an amazing doctor who helped me, so then I wanted to go and help people. I think for me, I grew up in a wonderful household. I'm the middle of 5 children, but I was a like picture perfect, definition of a middle child. I was like reckless, rebellious. I was kind of forgotten, I think, a lot of times, and not really forgotten, like,
Right.
oh, we're like Home Alone, but but just like, oh, hey, like, we got the older ones doing their thing, the younger ones, and you kind of just get lost in the shuffle. And for anyone who's ever experienced that, whether you are a middle child or not, you tend to just defend, you just do things for yourself. You know what I mean? You end up being very independent, but with that becomes a lot of, struggle, I would say. And I think with that as well, I was always just like the mediator, and I was very much like a people pleaser. And there's a lot of things like that that sound really awesome, but that is like wear and tear on you, man, like your mental health at times and your emotional health in general. And so I felt connected with that. And I felt as though I could connect with individuals in general because of that position of where I was in my own life. So that's what kind of drove me into mental health. And then I just kind of fell in love with it. I fell in love with the fact that it really doesn't take much to help people if you're just a really great listener and you want them to feel better. So you're just there for them. You hold space.
You're just a good person. That's pretty much what it is.
Oh, well, thank you.
So I'm going to let you have the floor with this for a little bit. What is Reiki and how is it beneficial?
Yeah. So Reiki, so it's very much like a spiritual practice, and to not go super deep into it, but to kind of keep it like, light and digestible. So I was introduced to this by, believe it or not, one of my professors in my master's program. It was actually after I got out of school counseling. And to be honest with you, I got super depressed because I had left a position here in Florida, went back home to Ohio, and I was quote unquote lost. I didn't know what to do. But I was always driven towards like more holistic health. I believe that the Western, medicine has a place in this world, 100%. But I feel as though there's a lot of times where we don't have to just, take pills to solve our problems all the time. They definitely help, but I think a lot of times we tend to overdo it. So I was like, what are some other holistic practices? So I started diving into things. But yeah, so Reiki is just basically an energy therapy, if you want. And so for me, it's actually a process for myself. Like anytime I'm working with a client, it's always rewarding for me, but it's a way for them to relax and to get into a meditative state so that, if you believe in this or not, because sometimes, it seems a little like out there for people, but it's for me to be able to like relax them, and for them to just take time to enjoy the relaxation and to meditate themselves. Sometimes that's really what it is. People can't sit still. We were just talking about ADHD before this, and it's like there's a lot of individuals where unless they're, quote unquote forced to meditate, and I say forced because obviously if someone's coming to me, they don't feel forced, but they're like, oh, this is part of it, right? So I have to be quiet. I have to be still. And it might be the only time that they're really, really still other than they're sleeping. So it's a very present kind of therapy, if that makes any sense. So that's why I enjoy it. And it seems to help all the people in which I work with.
Yeah. A lot of people call that like woo-woo science, I think it's called, but
yeah.
like, I feel like it's more beneficial than harmful. So it's like, why not try it? Right.
Exactly. Yes. And it's light touching, if not no touching at all. So a lot of people are like, so what are you doing with your hands, etc.? Are you massaging people? Like, no. I mean, I've done it over Zooms. I've done it just, through distance. I mean, like I'm here in Florida. I was living in Ohio. I was working with people out of the country before. California, etc. It doesn't have to be in person. A lot of times it is just a state of mind. So, but the added benefit of in person is great because then you really are feeling like that physical energy.
Fantastic. Yeah. So you're also a coach. You try to find great joy in life. How does one find joy, and how do you make your own happiness?
This is interesting because I would say throughout the years, the definition of this has changed for me. I do believe that you are in total control of your happiness. And this goes back to also emotions in general, and feelings and whatnot, because I'm sure, you probably have heard, like, no one can make you feel anything. Yet there's so many times when people hurt us and we tend to blame them, etc. And I'm not talking about like a physical pain. Obviously, if someone punches you in the face, yeah, this person made me.
Yeah.
This person hurt me. But the mental aspect of it, that's what people don't see. But through my own experiences and experiences with clients, there is a lot of responsibility there. I think that and it sucks to say this, but it's like we have to be responsible for that, right? And emotions and feelings a lot of times are attached to what, like an experience that we had or some sort of thought that just pops in randomly. So it's like, what are we doing with that? So at the end of the day, I think we are in control of all of that, even when it feels like it's out of control. It's just learning how to control that. And sometimes it is about letting go and not having control, which is, I know there's a lot of control out there. I just said a lot of different control things.
Yeah.
But I think you get what I'm saying. It's sometimes you just got to feel it and you got to sit there with it and you have to go towards it, because that will probably be the most beneficial thing you can do. Because I think the more you stuff it away, it's kind of like putting something under a rug, right? Like, if we just put all our trash under a rug and expect it to go away, what's going to happen? We're going to get ants, we're going to trip over it, whatever, versus like, let's just face the problem. Let's just get rid of it and see what happens, right? Then we're going to start to clear out things and we'll get better at not pushing things under the rug, because we're going to recognize the last time we did that, what happened, right? So it's just like those little things that we do over time, and we can start to say, okay, is this something that makes me happy or not? No. So we recognize it and we go a different path, and I don't think there's any right or wrong way of doing it. It's just figuring out what works for you. So that's why I think when you're finding your joy, you're finding your happiness, it truly is a very intimate process. And I don't think there's any cookie cutter way to do it as well. I mean, there's tons of books on it, and I'm trying to write one myself, but
oh yeah.
and it's, but at the end of the day, it is such a journey that is so individualized that, that's why I think you are in control of your happiness. And I don't think life is always about just being 100% happy either. I think as long as that's the goal of yours, right? Then you're on the right path, but also realizing that it doesn't have to be perfect, I think, is the main thing with that.
What makes you happy?
Oh gosh, jiu-jitsu. Mostly because we were talking about it. I just got done training, and I'm trying to tell you, oh my gosh, there is such a release of, dopamine and serotonin and all that, like the juicy hormones that just make you want to just love life. And you walk out it and you're just drenched in sweat and everyone else's sweat. And you're like, life is amazing. You know what I mean? Like, I literally was just fighting for my life for like 2.5 hours, and I walk out with a big smile on my face. It's like the best feeling in the world. But that makes me happy. To be honest with you, sunny days make me really happy. That's why I moved here to Florida. I love being in the sun. And I mean, there's obviously huge benefits from being in the sun, but it just makes me happy. And I think when I talk about clients and stuff like that, it's the moments when someone tells me like, thank you, that really helped me. That phrase, I could literally be like, all right, cool. If I die today, I'm good. You know what I mean? Like, that is what it's all about. Seeing other people get happy makes me happy.
That's good. I like that answer a lot. How long have you been training jiu-jitsu?
I started late fall of 2018. So I've been on the journey for a little while now. But yeah, I actually walked into my original gym and went, I want to punch people in the face. And they're like, oh, okay. Like, no, I'm serious. I want to feel like an MMA fighter. They're like, all right, like, let's get you down with some groundwork. I'm like, groundwork? What? And I just fell in love with jiu-jitsu. Yeah.
Yep. I love jiu-jitsu as well. How much of a positive impact has it had on your overall life? I think you just kind of went over it, because like I'm the same way. Like, I can go into jiu-jitsu like very angry, like having a bad day, and you come out and you're like, drenched in sweat, and you're like, oh, I'm having a good day now.
I'm telling you, I'm a person who gets hangry. Like, I literally, if that's in the in the dictionary, I'm sure my name's right after it. Like, yes, Vicky, Magyar, this is hangry. Cause like, I have that all the time. Right. And the minute you eat, you're like, I'm normal. It's kind of like those, Snickers commercials. Like, you need Snickers.
Yep.
That's how I am with jiu-jitsu a lot of times. It's like, I will just, if a day or two goes by and I haven't trained, I'm like, what is wrong with me? Like, I just feel aggravated, frustrated. I'm like, it's because I haven't trained, So the positive impact it has on me is just more than I can put into words. And it is the training itself, but I've come to find out that it's the people too. My gym here in Florida, Gracie West Chase, is, and I'm sure you know this because you train, but it is a family. Like it
Oh yeah.
literally is a family. I look forward to seeing the people there. I look forward to just having conversation with them, even in the middle of like death matches, right? And just drilling, and you're like, that's what makes it so worthwhile in so many other ways. But that's a positive impact that it has on me, because it's there for the hours that I'm there, but also it carries outside of the gym. It just, it's mentally stimulated, physically, emotionally, everything for me.
I'd just like to try to be a good training partner for like the people that are
Yeah.
competing. Like I've competed
Yeah.
before, but it's not for me. I can't turn that switch on where everyone's like, oh, I'm like laughing the whole time. Like I'm that training partner. When I roll with you, like there's a good chance you're going to be laughing, because I don't take it seriously. Like I do, but I don't.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting you said that, because I competed as a white belt. I did 2 different competitions, and then I completely went like just MIA. I just didn't compete. And I'm now a purple belt. I'm actually competing for the first time since then in 2 weeks.
Awesome.
I'm going to Ohio. Yeah. And so I'm really nervous, but I'm also the training partner that freaking has a blast. Like I'm always laughing and just having, so much fun. And then in competition, it's like still have fun. I mean, it should be about having fun, but
Yeah.
I need to be serious. So it's going to be interesting. I'll have to let you know how it goes.
Yeah, please do. That'd be awesome. I definitely
Yeah.
rooting for you.
Yeah. Thank you.
So you have a lot of titles. Do you ever deal with imposter syndrome? And then how do you deal with all these titles at once?
Oh gosh, like just like different things that I do, you mean? Like as far as
Yeah.
like titles and yeah. This is interesting. I think for me, I get a lot of anxiety over having the titles. And what I mean by that is like I I've done a lot in my short 34 years of life here, and I am very happy about that. But there's times where I'm like, where do I fit in? Where, in my family, everyone's had like a very strict, solid, like one path career. And then here I am kind of like, I'm like a tree that all these different branches.
Yep.
And that explains my personality to a T too. I love experimenting and exploring and doing a lot of things. And I kind of get bored easily. So I'm like, no, I want to elevate, do other things. But with all that being said, it's hard because there are days, I was just talking about this. There are days where I'm just like, I'm not like the perfect coach. I mean, because I'm not in the right mindset. You know what I mean? And there's times where you have to just kind of like push through it, because you have people that they're really, what's the word I'm looking for? They need you. They need you. You know what I mean? Like you're responsible for them in that way. And so it's hard because it's like, you've heard the phrase too, like fake it till you make it. There's been times where I've just had to push through, and I feel like, am I really doing this right? Am I really this person? Am I like, should I be doing this? I don't know. And I've just come to find out that like, the more I'm questioning it, the more I'm kind of like, what's the, like, why? Like, who cares? What, as long as you're doing what you want to do, or you're like, you realize you're going towards that goal of yours, of whatever it is, because we have all these titles, then you're perfectly perfect in every way, or perfectly imperfect in every way.
Yeah.
And you are on the right path. And that path can fray off into so many different paths too. You don't have to stick to just that. So with the whole imposter syndrome, yes, I have had it before, many times. And I think what really helps me is just getting grounded and doing things that ground me into like, hey, it doesn't matter. Like, because in all honesty, and this sounds so morbid, but like we could all die tomorrow. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So at the end of the day, yes, you do have these titles, and you're proud of them, and you worked hard for them, and you have people maybe, looking up to you with those titles. But what does it mean to you? At the end of the day, like you could have all these titles, but if it means nothing to you anymore, then, it's up to you to either change that way of thinking, to ground yourself, to get back into it, or say, all right, it served its purpose. I'm on to the next journey of this.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I've been trying to live my life now.
What are some tips that you give somebody that's burnt out? Because I feel like we all have burnout. Like, what are some tips that you would give?
I think that's a time to get silent. And I think it's a time to do a lot of reflection work, because burnout is usually what it's like when you're doing so much that you're pushing so much energy out, you're pouring now from an empty cup. And that should be a huge red flag for you to go, okay, then if I'm burned out, that means that I haven't been replenishing myself. You know, it's kind of like driving a car on fumes. Like eventually it's going to run out because you haven't filled up with gas. So it's just, that's usually like a big wake up call, I think, for at least for me, because I've been burned out before. So for people that are feeling that, I think that's where you need to get back to your roots, whatever that means for you, and say, like, why am I doing these things? And how did it get to this point? Do a little reflection and kind of like do a little, okay, let's trace our steps. Okay. So it all started when I took on a second job. Cool. Cause I needed the money. Great. Well, then I wasn't balancing the other part. Right. So I was eating crappy. Now my whole body's starting to shut down more. I stopped working out. I wasn't drinking enough water. Oh, I put this person first because, it was blah, 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 blah. We can go down a whole kind of like spiral of things. And there's no judging with that. That's the biggest thing. There's no judging, but it's recognizing how it all unraveled and going, okay, cool. I see it. Now, how can I go back and start to gain control again? And what things are really priorities in my life? I think that's really key, because I know for myself, I tend to put other people first. And that's just the way I am. I mean, I think that's why I've gone into the careers that I have, because I just love pouring into other people. But in doing that, a lot of time, people in mental health, of course, like, school counselors, coaches, counselors in general, they do get burned out really quickly because they're constantly pouring into other people. So that's why self-care is so important. And I always say self-care doesn't mean a spa day. It doesn't mean you have to be like, a whole day. It could literally be 2 hours where you just listen to music, you go for a walk, you watch a movie, you just binge on a show you like. It's whatever it is to you, but you're doing that because you want to do it, and that's it. So I think that's the biggest point with burnout is to look within, to reflect, and do some self-care.
You pretty much answered one of my questions, but what does self-care look like for you?
Oh, well, self-care. Oh boy. Well, self-care for me is really kind of exactly what I just said. Because I'm doing so many things all the time. Self-care is just getting quiet. Shutting off technology is big for me because I'm very technologically based with all my different things that I'm doing all the time, whether it be social media or coaching, etc. And being in nature, because I just love being by the ocean. I love being by the water. I love being in the sun. There's times where I just go for like literally like a 2.5 hour walk until I can just look into the sunset by the water and mute my phone and just have music playing. And that to me is just one of the best like things I could do for myself, Yeah. So yeah, that's a probably number one on my self-care is just getting quiet and being in nature.
I like it. We kind of went over this a little bit, but how does one find motivation, especially if they're in a serious bad place? Like, what would you say?
Yeah. That's tough.
Yeah.
I think because motivation is hard sometimes to find. And I think that's why discipline is probably more important than motivation. And I know I'm kind of answering it, but I'm not, because sometimes we're not always going to have motivation. At the end of the day, it's like we got to do things sometimes that we really are not motivated to do, but we know we need to get it done. So that's why I think a really solid routine is important. And when I say routine, I'm talking about the entire day, like from the minute you wake up till you go to bed. And that's something that I struggle with, is not the waking up, but it's the going to bed, because I am such a night owl. But my body wants to wake up early. So it's not going to do me any good if I'm up at 1 o'clock and I have to be up at 5. That's silly for my sleep cycle. So the motivation is going to start to dwindle if I'm sleep deprived. So that's why a good solid routine is so important, and being disciplined in that routine, and also being disciplined in like the reason why you're doing the things you're doing. And that's why, going back, it's like recognizing what are your goals? Like, why are you doing the things you're doing? And that way it all kind of goes together. Isn't it crazy how mental health does that? It's like, it's all together. It's like one
really
big,
is.
like, but yes, so motivation. So if you don't have something set in stone yet, right? Let's just say someone doesn't have a solid routine and they're looking for motivation. I think sometimes it's just getting neutral. I say this a lot to people. You don't have to be happy like this. You don't have to break out of that sadness like this. That's going to take time for some people. But I think what's more important is to recognize, okay, this isn't the end of the world, but I know I'm not capable of being super happy right now. I just want to feel like balanced and do what it is. Look, whatever that is for you, do that.
Fantastic. It's kind of a tough question, but I feel like a lot of mental health advocates are into yoga. Why do you think that is?
Well, I think because the practice is it's very much about what? It's about being present. It's about shutting out everything and just being focused on your breath. And our breath is really, it's life. I mean,
Yep.
yeah. I mean, we know in jujitsu, if you cut off someone's like, whoop, they're gone.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, all right, you won. But it's about finding that centeredness. It's about tuning out everything. And I believe that's why a lot of people practice yoga, which is so funny. Side note, I'm a 200-hour yoga instructor.
Yeah.
Like I got my certification. I haven't been instructing, but I have that. And I used to think that yoga was so silly, so dumb. I was like, you know what? I'm like, I only do physical contact sports. Like this is what is this, right? Like you're just meditating. It's like, yeah, they really are, with movement. But because I'm such a high energy, like crazy person, it is the best thing for me. It is 100% the best thing for me because it forces me to chill out. And so a lot of times in the morning, I'll do, I don't know if you know I don't know. Do you practice yoga yourself?
Yeah, I do a little bit. That's how I first got into shape, was doing yoga.
Oh, beautiful. Okay. So you know that it can be tough, but I like the yin yoga. So the very, just slow moving, maybe, 2 to 3, well, not 2 to 3, really. It's more like 5 to 6 moves for the entire hour,
Okay.
sometimes a little bit more. But that's because I am so active, because I'm doing so many different things. Like, I'm running, I'm jogging, I'm doing jujitsu, I'm working out. So it's like, I need that hour to decompress and to be very present without a lot of crazy movement, but I think going back to what you asked, like, I think a lot of people in the mental health world like that because it's teaching people to go inward, which is so important. Yeah.
Also, I'm a short guy, 5'6". It makes me feel tall when I stretch.
Yes. Yes.
I did the force resistance type of yoga.
Okay. Oh, that's good. That's good too, though. It really is. Yeah.
I want to try the other ones too. I want to be like in like the 100-degree like weather, like you just sweating out. That's like what I want to do.
It's so good. It's such a great detoxer, Yeah, it's good.
So you go by the name of Slick Vick. Where does that name come from?
Yeah, that happened. Oh my gosh. I believe my best friend gave me that name back in, gosh, I don't know if it was like middle school, high school, whatever. And it's funny because the name itself kind of sounds like, oh, I'm being slick, like, like, no, but I'm not, it was just like a rhymey kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it just stuck. It stuck over the years, and I've just used it as like a social media handle, and now people do recognize me as Slick. So that's kind of where it stemmed from. Yeah.
That was like another caveat for why I picked you, because I was like, oh, Slick Vick. I was like, she's got to be super interesting.
I know. So random.
Super random.
Yeah.
So you're also a podcast host, Peace, Toast, and Jam. What's up with the name, and what can people expect with the show?
I'm glad you asked. So because I love when people say the name and they're just like, they don't ask, and I'm like, let me tell you what it means.
Yeah.
So Peace, Toast, and Jam, I started that, I believe 2020, when the whole crazy pandemic happened. It was also when I came back from Florida and I had lost my way, and I was just like, I need to do something. I need to get my words out. But Peace, Toast, and Jam, the actual name, peace, means about like the peace sign, like peace, love, harmony. Toast is about food, literally, but also about things that bring you joy. And the jam could also be the food aspect of it, but it's also about like music and what things like outside of that also kind of help you decompress. So the whole point of the podcast was a way to talk about mental health and talk about things in life that brings all those things together. For me, music is super important, because I feel like it can make or break my mood at times, which it doesn't have that much of a control over me. But, I'm sure I shouldn't say I'm sure, but a lot of people do have playlists where it's like, oh, this is my playlist to get hype, right? This is my playlist to relax. And it's an interesting thing that we do when, like, we can't create that for ourselves. So we listen to that, and it's frequency based a lot of times, which helps us relax or helps us get really excited to, like, go punch someone in the face, if you're an MMA person. But that's what the whole podcast is about. I mean, a lot of times it's me just going on crazy fun rants about life or jujitsu or mental health, something related. I talked about my whole experience from leaving Ohio, coming to Florida, all kinds of just shenanigans that have happened since then. But I've had a lot of people reach out afterwards and just say like, that really hit home, or, like that was, you said it in a way that made sense. You broke it down. So I do it for that reason. And I have had some people on it too, but yours is way better than mine. I'm just going to throw it out there.
No way. Not
I'm
at all.
working on mine.
I started mine the same, like November 2020 is when this started. So it was a pandemic baby.
Nice. Yeah. We did good. We did good.
Before we wrap up, where can everyone find you on the internets?
Oh, well, I would say my biggest platform right now has been TikTok. So you can find me on there, and Instagram and Twitter. Same handle for all three. It's Slick Vick. B as in boy, A as in apple. Yeah, it does stand for badass, but I just, even though because people are always like, what is that? I'm like, I couldn't just do Slick Vick. It was taken. So I was just trying to think of something on the fly. And
yeah. It works. It's better than like Slick Vick 57252. Like, you know what I mean?
I was gonna do that, or like my birth year, and I'm like, no, I'll just do some random. So it stuck too. But yes, you can find me on there. And I do have a website, is www.slickvick.com. So if you want to reach out to me for any other reason, you can go there.
I feel like Slick Vick's a good jujitsu name because you just like slick through like moves and stuff. You wiggle your way, you shrimp your way out.
That is true. I need to start pushing that a lot more. Yeah, I need to get that on on a rash guard, for this competition coming up. Yes.
I like it.
Yes.
So speaking of your competition coming up and pump up music, what would be your personal theme song if you came out to a match?
Oh man, for some reason, and this is on the fly, I feel like it would either be extreme, like Rocky, like one of Rocky's, like, and I'm obsessed with the fourth one.
Rocky IV's the best one. He ended the Cold War.
Yes, it is the best. Like everything. Is it Draco? Was that his name?
Drago.
I'm sorry, Drago. Yes, freaking love that one. So I'd probably use some song from that montage of him training in the snow.
There's no easy way out.
Easy way out. Yes, that's probably the one. Yep.
Oh, this is my favorite pick of all time. Is the Rocky IV soundtrack fucking slaps.
Dude, I know. How can you not get hyped to that, right? Like, just it's so good.
Holy shit.
Or I'd probably do like "I'm Just a Girl" by No Doubt. Like,
good jam. That's actually a really good song.
But that's a really good song, and it's it's good. It's good. So yeah.
Tragic Kingdom's a great album. Like Sunday Morning, even like Don't Speak's a great song. But yeah, that whole album's great.
Yeah, Don't Speak is so good. Yeah, she is incredible. So maybe I would do one of those. Yeah.
Yeah, I ain't no holla back girl.
That's
Let's end with this. What are 3 things that you're grateful for today?
Well, we've been talking a lot about jiu-jitsu. So yes, jiu-jitsu's up there. I'm very grateful for jiu-jitsu. I'm really grateful for my boyfriend. So he trains jiu-jitsu. He is our leg lock coach. But he's an incredible human. So I'm very grateful for him. And I would say I'm really grateful for, this sounds maybe cheesy, but like social media, because this is the only way that I would have met you and networked with you, and with anyone who I've ever networked with. So I'm very grateful for it. As much as people harp on social media and think it's like toxic, this is the part where it's very fulfilling, and I'm very grateful for it.
Yeah, you can definitely find the positive out of it. There is a lot of negatives, but you can definitely stop blocking it and like not really read it and stuff. I'm petty as shit. So when I see a negative comment, it takes me everything to not say something back. I'm like Tom Petty, but I've stopped doing that.
Yeah, good. Oh, this is good. We are making progress.
Making a little bit of progress. But yeah, hey, I have to chirp back. I'm like, just because a guy has a mental health podcast doesn't mean he can't start some shit.
That's right. Exactly. And you can. There's nothing wrong with that. Just go, I don't know, meditate later.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's how you do it. Go get Ambada Umaplata and you'll be all right.
Exactly.
Oh shit. Slick Vick, Vicki, Magyar. I got it again right. Yes. Thank you so much for coming on. You're an incredible person. Keep doing what you're doing. Never stop, and just keep being a good person, because you're a great person, actually.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much. So are you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. That's another episode of 20 Minutes. Let's break the stigma by cracking a smile. I will see you soon.
Round 1. Fight.
Okay, again, I'm glad you don't watch this or listen to this podcast, but I do this with all my guests before we start, is we play a game of 2 out of 3 rock, paper, scissors. Would you like to play?
Heck yeah.
Fuck yeah. All right,
Yeah,
cool.
fuck yeah.
I'm going to call it, I do rock, paper, scissors, shoot. That's the way I do it. Some people are different. I'm going to keep my eyes closed to make it fair, just in case there's a delay. But I'm going to go rock, paper, scissors, shoot, and 2 out of 3. You ready?
Okay, ready? Let's go.
All right. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Ooh,
You got me.
1-0. 1-0.
Okay.
All right, here we go. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Ooh, you caught on. You caught on. Most people don't catch on to that. Now I'm screwed. All right.
Okay.
Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Oh, the comeback. You got in my head. Jesus Christ.
Just the way it is, man. I'm sorry.
Yeah, good win. I tip my hat to you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
This podcast is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified health provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition. If you are feeling suicidal, please dial 911.